Welcome everyone to the battle for the 5th place between Maxime Vachier-Lagrave with the white pieces and Arjun Erigaisi with black. Maxime, the local hero here in France, lives in Paris and has a very decent freestyle event here. But he would be looking to finish 5th, and so would be Arjun. Arjun did beat Nepo while MVL had knocked out Nodirbek Abdusattorov. The fight is for the 5th place. The fight is for 50,000 US dollars. That's quite a sizable prize money. We are about to begin. Let's get it started. The players shake hands and let's look at the position on the board. We have a queen, a knight, a bishop, rook, knight, king, rook and bishop. What is the first move that MVL will play here to open the game? He can go c4 like Magnus did in his game against Hikaru here with the same position, or will he choose something else? Takes his time. That's the thing about freestyle chess. You have to get going right from move 1. There's no opening theory. There's nothing to bank upon. He opens with d4. A very, very logical move. Pushing the pawn one step ahead, 2 steps ahead. And now Arjun, the most logical response is the symmetrical d5 and he plays it. You can decide to bring out your bishop, London style, but then you might get hit with g5 suddenly, So you have to be careful. Knight d3 may be an option, g3, g4. Actually, g3 I do not like. b3 he plays. The reason I do not like g3 is because of a check that could come instantly. So b3 played here by Maxime. And he wants to perhaps play in the center with the move c4. A very logical move. b6. At the same time, your bishop could come out from a3 and just tickle this soft pawn on e7. b6 played. You also want to play in the center with c5 as black. So let's say if you go c4 here, the problem is after take, c5, d5, the c4 pawn can become very weak. Knight d6, bishop a6 and so on. So MVL decides to just play his knight to d3, a very, very logical move, stopping the pawn coming to c5. An important question for Arjun is, should he maintain symmetry? Should he break it? What should he do next is the question. And he's thinking about it now. And he decides to short castle. Okay, interesting move. He has got his king to the side of the board. In a way, if you think in an ideal world, you want to go g6, activate the bishop, bring out the knight, play your bishop to b7 or a6, bring the other knight out with c5 or so on. And that could be a very, very logical plan, logic-driven plan here. White also short castles in this position. Makes a lot of sense here. And now Arjun goes g6. He activates the bishop here in the position. And he gets up. And MVL is deciding what are the next moves here. One plan that I like is bishop b2. He goes g3. He also opens up his bishop. So in a way, it's almost symmetrical if Arjun goes knight d6. But I think Arjun has a choice now whether to go knight d6 or not. And reason why he's not played knight d6 gives him some flexibility whether he wants to put the knight there or not. And he pushes his pawn to c5. Very strong move. Because in a way, if you see, you have now pinned the pawn to the queen. And I believe MVL was ready for this because he has the move bishop b2 here to put his bishop on the long diagonal. Arjun gets up. And yes, MVL does play bishop b2. And now if take, bishop takes, I mean it's a choice now whether Arjun, because MVL wants to take on c5. So Arjun takes with the bishop, a very interesting decision. He wants to trade his bishops here. So bishop takes bishop seems very likely now. He takes back on d4. Arjun will recapture. C takes d4. Queen takes on d4. The queen is well placed. It is now the knight comes out to f6. So the knight defends the pawn, and you will see that not determining the knight's position came in handy for Arjun. Okay, can MVL push c4 here to attack this? It's possible. It's possible. He goes knight e5. I think he was more concerned about the fact that the black knight would come to c6 and dislodge his queen, which is why he plays his knight to e5. And the bishop is played to b7 here. Bishop b7. And Arjun gets up. He plays his rook to d3. Whoa. Wow. What is that move? And what's the plan actually? Is he angling for some kind of an attack with g4, g5, rook h3? Is that on the mind? What an interesting move here. In a way, white has some kind of a control over the position with his pieces. And Arjun very smartly avoids the trade of knights. He goes knight a6. And you can see his plan is knight c5 at hitting the rook. And then knight e6. Very interesting. You can go b4 actually to stop the knight from coming in, but then you weaken the c4 square. MVL plays a very unusual move, I must say. Rook c1. I mean, does he have so much time to play his rook to c1? So knight comes to c5. He's hitting the rook. And later would like to go to e6 to hit the queen. So rook goes back to d1. And now a key moment here. I believe Arjun is ready to play knight e6. And why is this move so important? Because once the knight moves away, knight e6, the pawn will come forward. And the bishops will get traded. You will see that black's position keeps getting better. Right now, his bishop and queen are just looking at the pawn. So goes queen b4, putting some pressure on e7. And so rook e8 makes a lot of sense now to defend the pawn. But hey, there's another nice move that is there. Oh, you can play rook d6. But look at this idea to push the pawn to d4. Arjun plays it. Wow, he's so sharp. The main point being that if you play queen e7, I'm taking bishop h1 and then I'm mating you here. So there's no time to even take this knight. So that's the reason why after d4, you can't take here. He takes, oh, he goes bishop f3. Because if he had taken the bishop on b7, then queen b7 and I'm defending e7. So bishop f3 makes sense. Will Arjun chop off this bishop? Because e7 is under attack. No, he goes knight to d5. Wow. It's interesting stuff by Arjun. He defends the pawn, attacks the queen. If you take the knight, I take back with the bishop, but then e7 hangs. Hey, I can take with the rook attacking your knight. So there's no time to win this. And then my rook could swing over, h5, h4, too many problems. So MVL comes back, queen d2. He's very passive, but he's surviving here. He's surviving the position. Now another strong move is f6 to just push the knight away. And both players sipping on water. They have enough time. MVL has 31 minutes. Arjun has 42 minutes. I do think pushing the knight away from e5 is a very, very powerful move. So he plays f6. Pushes the pawn ahead. And now the knight has to move away. So the knight, oh, he doesn't move the knight. He goes bishop g4. Wow, what a move. Because if you take on e5, he wants to take on e6. And then maybe c3. And already white is doing very well here. Very interesting change of air. Knight c5 played. Now the problem is if you take on d4, your knight is hanging. So this time actually you have to save your knight. That is a given now. Knight d3 will be met with maybe knight e4. Whew. He comes back, knight to f3. This time attacking the d4 pawn. But can we simply not protect it with e5? Would that not be a good move? I think e5 is a very, very solid move here for Arjun. He thinks about it and pushes forward with e5. Look at black's position. And the way in which Arjun has built it up is so beautiful. His knights are well coordinated. But MVL is super tricky. In such positions, he's the most dangerous. It feels like you have a great position. But you know, he's trying to create h4, h5 ideas. Amazing move by Arjun. Another amazing understanding of the position, that getting rid of this bishop is going to help him. Because this bishop was very well placed on this diagonal, but bishop c8 is an incredible move. Just going back, trading. And this moves like these show you the strength of a player like Arjun. Queen h4 played. And so now the question is, what to do? The bishop is, the queen is defending the bishop here. Do we trade it? I think Arjun thinking about this and goes knight to b4. And his idea is to attack this pawn on a2. Bishop c8. There is rook c8. Just fine. It would be interesting to see how MVL deals with this. Because if a3, your knight still jumps into a2 and traps the rook. So knight b4 is a very interesting move. Bishop takes bishop first. I think taking with the queen makes a lot of sense because it's on the side. Or it's already active, so maybe you take with the rook as well. Both seem possible. He takes with the queen. Oops. So takes with the queen here. c3 played here by MVL. And again, a tricky move by MVL. You want to take this? I think makes a lot of sense. So take on a2, attacking the rook and the pawn on c3. So c takes d4 played. And now that wasn't a great move, but I guess knight c3, take. Maybe he didn't like this as white, this position. So he just decided to give up an exchange by taking on d4. But that shouldn't help here. Because now Arjun can take the rook. He takes it. Knight takes c1. Presses the clock. And for MVL, taking on c1 makes a lot of sense. Yeah, takes on c1. And now there is pressure down the c line. So e4 played. Wow, what a move, by the way. Because e takes d4, there is b4. And you lose your knight. So e4 is such a crazy move. Because now I'm attacking your knight. And if your knight moves away, I'll simply chop off the pawn on d4. So he goes d takes c5. But now Arjun picks up the knight. And he's an exchange up. And takes back ef3, because if you had taken cb6 attacking the queen, of course the rook is hanging, the pawn is pinned, so e takes f3. And Arjun now recaptures back b takes c5. And so right now check. It's actually a pure exchange down for white. He doesn't even have a pawn right now, but I believe he could get a pawn on c5, like queen takes c5, queen takes c5, rook takes c5. But there is already a check coming in, so maybe not. He first goes king g2. And now the c5 pawn is under pressure. So rook comes to d4. He's kind of forcing his hand. This queen d4, cd4, of course, take is winning for black. Queen c5 seems like a move, but maybe queen c2 is the best. Oh, he takes here. And perhaps this is not the best resistance. He could have gone queen c2 and kept fighting on with this position, but after take, it seems like white is the one who's in big trouble now. Rook f7, controlling the 7th rank, ready to move your rook to b7 to attack here on b3. Rook goes to a5. Now rook to d3 played, attacking the pawn on b3. He goes rook to b5. a6 played. The rook is attacked. And rook b6. I love how Arjun plays this position in a very sharp way, but at the same time in a very controlled way. Rook b5 played. And if you see the knight on b1, it's dominated by the rook on d3. There is no space. So the knight has to go to a3. So rook a7. And when the knight goes to a3, there is the move a4. If you take, the knight is hanging. So h4 played. And now f5. Slowly and steadily, Arjun making progress. It's not going to be simple to beat MVL from here, but I believe Arjun has some plans. Now let's see what he does next. He plays his king to h6, and that's a very smart move, because in a way, you know, many times the rook would come in if this rook goes away, let's say to e1, check and create some harassment, right? So I put my king just on h6 first only. Rook b6 played. No particular threat here, so I can already start to think about getting my rook from a7 into the game. And Arjun plays rook c7, a great move. He wants to get into the camp with rook to c1. Rook a6, it's a good move because if rook c1, knight a3, oh, but now you can actually win the b3 pawn. What if I take the b3 pawn right now? Isn't that hanging? Yeah, he just takes it. And there's no time to take the pawn on a5 because the knight is hanging. So you go knight d2 perhaps as MVL. He does it. And then rook b2, attacking the knight and the f2 pawn. So the knight comes back to f1. And then we now enter into c2 to attack the f2 point. Yes. And there is nothing much that can be done here. He goes knight e3. There's a small threat here of knight f5 check. But first Arjun chops off the pawn on f2. King goes to g1. And rook e2. What a move. Knight is hanging and he resigns there. Arjun wins if knight f5 check, king h5, knight is hanging and there is a mate here. So you cannot continue. What a game by Arjun actually. This was an incredible battle between the two players. I would say MVL, very sharp, very tricky. But the way in which Arjun played each and every move, right from the opening, the way he built his position, the way he played c5, traded on d4, brought his knight from a6, c5 to e6, then pushed d4, tried to exchange the bishops with bishop c8. Just incredible play by the youngster, and I also love how they both are analyzing now. Great sportsmanship by MVL. Let's hear them talking to each other.